Hi, my name's Sara Jade and welcome to my channel, where we talk about true crime, unsolved cases and more. If you're interested in true crime, be sure to like, subscribe and hit that bell. So in today's case, we'll be talking about the Turpin family and the neglect and abuse that they suffered at the hands of their own mother and father in the home that they called the House of Horrors. Now, just a quick content warning. In this video, we will be talking about child abuse and neglect. So if this is something you can't watch, please switch off now and we'll see you in the next video. Louise Turpin was born in May 1968 in Virginia. She had 4 sisters and 1 brother, and her family came from a very religious background where her mum and dad were part of the Pentecostal church. Louise suffered a lot of abuse before she met David, from the abuse that she and her sisters suffered at the hands of her grandfather and was condoned by her mother. David Turpin also came from Virginia and was born in October 16, 1961. He also came from a very religious background. He met Louise through his parents, who had a relationship with her mum and dad. Louise saw David as someone that could help her escape the abuse that she was suffering, and David, being 8 years older, saw her as someone he could mould and shape. On February 11, 1985, when Louise was only 16 years old, they get married, and David starts to work for a company called Lockheed as a computer engineer, and they moved to Fort Worth in Texas in 1992. Louise had always wanted 12 children, as she believed it was her calling, and so by the summer of 1996, they already had 4 children, aged 7, 3, 2 and 1. At this time, her 19-year-old sister came to live with them as she attended college. However, she ended up on the street as she couldn't bear to live with them. She described them as really strict, but she didn't see any kind of abuse. The children had to ask for permission to sit down and eat their dinner and ask to eat anything. She was told that she had to follow the rules if she wanted to live with them. This was fine. However, things started to get strange when David started to watch her in the shower, and then both of them would taunt her while she was in the shower, and this made her feel very uncomfortable, and she decided to leave. After this, her and her family weren't allowed back into the house, and they started to shut the family out. They thought this was very strange, but they thought they were just private people, so they left them to it. By 1998, they had 5 children, and this is when the abuse of the family started to escalate. They had just become bankrupt, and Louise pulled the children out of school so that she could homeschool them. She said it was to protect them from all the bullying that they were getting, as they were only washing once a week. Their family started to question the appearance of the children and said that they were too skinny, and at this time, Louise pulled back any interaction with the family and only spoke to them over the phone. In 1999, they moved to Rio Vista in Texas, onto a 40-acre secluded compound with their 7 children, the eldest being 11. During this time, they were allowed to play with a neighbour's child, and they used to play out in the fields until one day her parents came over and her mum said to one of the children, "Why is your hand so white? It looks like you had a white glove on." And they said to her, "We're only allowed to wash our hands up to here to save water." At this time, they were only allowed 1 bath a year and were only allowed to wash their hands up to a certain height. After this incident, their parents got a little bit suspicious and they weren't allowed to play with the neighbour anymore. And they only interacted with them once or twice the whole time they were there. In 2003, the oldest daughter managed to escape. She started to run down the fields and she flagged over a van coming past. When they stopped her, they questioned her and asked her why she was there, and she explained the abuse that she was receiving. However, because of her unkempt appearance, the way she spoke and her incapability of speaking properly, they didn't believe her and thought she had behaviour problems, so they decided to take her back to her family. After this, they decided to chain the children to the beds. In 2007, David and Louise decided to put 10 of the children into a camper van on their property so they could go out on more day trips. They left them there to defend for themselves and used to bring them groceries every week. However, there wasn't enough to feed all the children. They also forced the older children to put the little ones into cages as punishment. It was around this time that Louise had turned 40 and she started to regret not doing things with her life. So she started to drink more, go out to clubs and have sex with random men in hotel rooms and record it for her husband. During this time, her children were locked up in the trailer defending for themselves. They both started to get into drinking and gambling and started to get into a lot of debt and struggled financially as they spent their money on the wrong things. Louise started to get an addiction for shopping, and she would buy loads of different toys and clothes and hang them up in the cupboards and put them on the tables. However, the children weren't allowed to touch them. This was also seen as another form of abuse because the children could see them there, but they were never allowed to play with anything. They also put locks on all the cupboard doors and limited the children to 1 meal a day, even though they were eating McDonald's and having takeaways and everything like that. During all these years of abuse, they used to take them out once in a while and dress them up all in matching clothes and take pictures of them at places like Disneyland and fun theme parks. This is so that Louise could put these pictures onto her Facebook and show the family that everything was okay. In 2011, David and Louise decided to renew their vows in Las Vegas, so they got the kids all dressed up and took them there to get their vows renewed at Las Vegas Chapel. There's pictures of all the children dancing and having the ceremony, and them all having a good time. However, you can see that the children are skinny, their arms are all thin, and they all look a lot younger than they are. In 2014, the Turpin family leave their house in the middle of the night and move to Perris, California. Once they've gone, the neighbours go over to have a look at the house, and all they can describe it as is a squalor. There's mess everywhere, there's rubbish piled up really high up to the waist, there's rats around everywhere, there's a dead cat on the oven, and there's nappies and rubbish just everywhere. They also see cages and chains, which they thought was for the animals. However, no one reported this abuse. When they moved to California, they moved to a suburban area and they had another child, so in total they had 13. This is when abuse continued, and they used to torture and humiliate the children. As another control mechanism, they used to keep the children up all day and then make them do work during the night. They used to make them go out into the garden and do all the landscaping, or walk around in circles upstairs just to keep them awake. This would make sure that the children would sleep during the day and they were less likely to be seen or escape. One neighbour described how he looked through one of their windows about 1 o'clock in the morning and saw them walking around, marching in circles upstairs through the window. They started to give some of the older children a little bit more freedom and let them have some mobile phones. And in 2016, one of the younger children, Jordan, found one of her brother's phones and decided to start watching videos on there. She became interested in Justin Bieber and started to watch all his videos, all his interviews, and loved the way he spoke. By watching his videos, she could see that there was more to life than what they were living. This was when she decided to plan her escape, 2 years before it happened. On January 14, 2018, Jordan escapes through one of the windows with a deactivated phone that she knows can only call 911. The plan was that 3 of the girls would escape, but one of them decided at the last minute not to go. The other one ran out after Jordan, however she went the wrong way, and a few minutes later she comes back into the house. Jordan, however, managed to escape and call 911. She's shaking so much that she can't dial the numbers and has to calm herself down before she dials 911.
This is 911, do you have an emergency? I just ran away from home. Do you know what street you're on? No.
When she talks to the operator, she has no clue where she is and they have to track her through GPS. She's trying to give them an address, but all she can do is give them a couple of numbers, but doesn't correlate to anything because she doesn't understand what an address is. They ask her to keep walking and walk to a sign, and the first sign she comes across is a stop sign. They tell her to stop here and wait for the policeman. However, he's going to be 14 minutes.
I just ran away from home because I live in a family of 15, okay? Can you hear me? And we have abusing parents. Did you hear that?
Okay, how did they abuse you?
Okay. They hit us, they like to throw us across the room. They pull our hair, they yank out our hair. I have my 2 little sisters right now are chained up.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 17.
What's your name?
Louise and Turpin.
Okay, I'm going to connect you to the sheriff's department so that they can help.
What?
One moment, don't hang up.
I won't.
This whole time she's worried and scared that her mum and dad will find her and kill her. The policemen are 14 minutes away, so the operator has to keep her on the phone because she knows if she loses her, they'll never be able to get her back.
Okay, so you're just around the corner from your house, is that right?
Yeah, I think. I'm not sure. I've never been out. I don't go out much, so I don't know anything about the streets or anything.
They try to keep her talking so they can keep her on the phone. She talks about her sisters and the abuse that she suffers from her parents. She talks about how they're thrown across the floor, their hairs are pulled, they're strangled, and they're chained up to the beds.
The reason I ran away from home was because the chains were making places and they would wake up at night and they would start crying. And they wanted me to call somebody and tell them.
She tells them that they only have 1 bath a year and they're not allowed to wash their hands above their wrist.
When was the last time you had a bath?
I don't know, almost a year ago. But sometimes I feel so dirty. I wash my face and I wash my hair.
And that they're only allowed to have 1 meal a day.
We live in Still, and sometimes I wake up and I can't breathe because how dirty the house is.
She also mentions that 2 of her sisters are currently still chained to the bed at this moment.
And how many of your siblings are tied up?
2 of my sisters, 1 of my brothers.
How are they tied up, with rope or with what?
With chains. They're chained up to their bed.
She sounds very young, even though she's 17. And she doesn't know things like what a sidewalk is, or what the road is, or what signs are, or even what an address is. She speaks about how worried she was about how close she came to death many times, and how now she's worried about her siblings as they were chained to their beds and they kept crying and asking her to help them.
And so I wanted to call y'all so y'all can help my sisters.
She tries to give them as much information as she can, because she knows that if they don't believe her, she'll just be taken back to the house and then her parents would kill her.
I don't know much about my mother. She doesn't like us. She doesn't spend time with us ever.
Who takes care of you?
I take care of myself, and Mother does buy food for us, so she feeds us, but we never talk.
She didn't believe that they would believe her, as her sister tried to escape before and was just taken straight back to the house. So this time she decided to get proof. She had taken photos of both her sisters chained to their bed. After 14 minutes of agonising wait, the police eventually turn up and they find Jordan next to the stop sign. They start to ask her questions and ask her if she has any proof of the abuse. She shows the policeman the 2 photos that she's taken of her sisters, and they slowly start to believe her.
Hi Jordan, what's going on?
Okay. I just ran away from home.
Okay.
And I live in a family of 15.
Okay.
My 2 little sisters right now are chained up.
They're chained up?
Yes,
Where are they chained up at?
on their bed. Now, Mother didn't chain them up just to be mean. Okay. They're chained up because they stole Mother's food.
Uh-huh.
But I'm sorry if I talk too much. Okay. I've never talked to anybody out there, so I've never been alone with a person, so this is very hard for me to talk. Okay.
Do your parents know you left your house?
No, they don't. So,
Do you take any medication?
what's medication?
Medication?
Yeah, what's medication?
Do you take pills? Do you take pills?
Oh, I
For-
don't think I've ever taken a pill before.
Okay.
Right, I haven't. But our parents are abusing. They abuse us. But the reason I called and the reason I managed to get out here, this is one of the most scariest things I've ever done.
Uh-huh.
I'm terrified. But I called because my 2 little sisters, they're chained up right now.
Do you have pictures of that?
Yes, I can show you. I actually didn't have it, and then one of my sisters told me I need to get pictures.
Do you have pictures of your sisters chained up?
Yes, but there you go. I don't have proof of everything, but I have proof that my sisters are chained up. So see, look at that. See, those are the places that make it on that. And see how dirty she is. We're so filthy. We don't take baths. We don't.
How did your sisters get like this?
Okay.
Your parents chained them up?
Yes, because they stole food.
Okay.
But they stole it because they were hungry.
Who took this picture?
I did. I took those pictures.
Okay. You make sure to save these, okay?
Okay, I will.
Don't get rid of those.
I will. I won't.
A few hours later, the police rescue the 13 children from the house. They're allowed in because of the report of abuse. So they go through the house and start to check everywhere. And they can see the rubbish everywhere, they can see boxes piled up high, and they see some of the children walking around the house. They go into one of the bedrooms where the 2 children are that are believed to be chained to the bed. However, by this time the chains have been removed. However, they ask the children and say to them, look, we're here to help you. Please tell us what happened. And they point to the cupboard in the corner. One of the policemen goes over there and notices the chains in the corner. They also see the bruises around the girls' wrists and see that they're malnutritioned and very thin. They go into the other room and they see some of the other children in there, but they are okay. As they're talking to David and Louise in the hallway, they also notice a pile of high boxes in the corner. So they go over there and have a look and they say, is there another room through here? And they manage to move all the boxes away, and when they open the door, they find the older boy chained to his bed. At this point, they arrest David and Louise and take him into custody. They are charged with 14 felony accounts, including child cruelty, torture and false imprisonment. In January 2018, their trial begins and it's found out that they were planning to move to Oklahoma a few days before they were arrested. In February 2019, all the evidence against them started to mount up. David and Louise pleaded guilty to 4 counts, 1 count of torture, 4 counts of false imprisonment, and 6 counts of cruelty to dependent adult, and 3 counts of willful child neglect, and were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Now, I'd like to say that was the end of the story and that all the children lived happily ever after, but that was not the case. After they were removed from their home, they were taken to a hospital where they were cared for and spent the next couple of months recovering. The young children were put into foster care and the older children were put into independent living with a court-appointed public guardian who would help them take care of their medication, support them where they live with their finances and how to get around. However, it's been reported that 5 of the children that were put into foster care were actually abused by their foster parents, and some of them suffered sexual abuse as well as mental abuse and were kept in their rooms. One foster parent even told the children, "I can understand why your parents locked you up." This case is now going to trial and will commence in February, so I'll keep you up to date on any updates of the case. The older children were sent into highly violent areas and their guardian didn't support them. Whenever they asked her any questions, she would just tell them to Google it and didn't help them at all. Some of the children found it hard to find stable housing and some of them even starved still. During the court case, they received over £600,000 worth of donations from the community. However, they are unable to access these at the moment because they're still tied up in court. But I am happy to report that since this, 4 of the children have found a stable foster home and are very happy. The others are leaning on each other to help them get through and support each other by helping them find housing. And they also meet up regularly with their brothers and sisters. I just want to talk about the brave girl Jordan, who's now 21. Through her bravery, she was able to save her brothers and sisters. She's now an advocate for them and wants to tell her story to everyone so that she can help others and make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. Although a few of the children have changed their names, which is quite understandable, Jordan wants to make sure that their story is heard and it doesn't happen to anyone again. She now has a TikTok page showing her life and her videos, so if you want to go and support her, that'd be great. She also has a charity page which is helping to support and fund her brothers and sisters, so if you want to go and support her, I'll put her links down below and you can go and check her out. Thank you for watching and take care, and I'll see you in the next video.
You call me a saint, but you know I'm a stranger, all willing and able.